a lot of companies are buying land in especially in the global south just to store their information physically in a place. And so, and I do think that there are like a lot of concerns in this, and I also feel like regulations and rules and like, that always comes a little bit behind. And we always need to see how a new phenomenon behaves in the world to know how to regulate it.
Previously, you mentioned a little bit about how AI might assist in the democratization of education. What are your guys' thoughts about maybe its assistance, or maybe it's not as useful as we think it might be when it comes to making education available to everybody?
Yeah, I think that there is like this idea of how much consumption of electricity AI has or implies, or I have seen a lot as well about the farms of the equipment, like the physical equipment of AI, and how like a lot of companies are buying land in especially in the global south just to store their information physically in a place. And so, and I do think that there are like a lot of concerns in this, and I also feel like regulations and rules and like, that always comes a little bit behind. And we always need to see how a new phenomenon behaves in the world to know how to regulate it, right? But I do think that there is a big opportunity in the use of AI, especially coming up with like all these new projects that we see about like the universalization of Wi-Fi, like the universal infrastructure of Wi-Fi. And I think that if you manage to get universal Wi-Fi infrastructure, you are facilitating, or like you're reducing the marginalization of so many people in this world that would have before, because like what you have in the present is a lot of communities that are located in very remote areas that are very hard to build stuff into, and like in other places, like on one side, because lands are complicated, so we imagine in the middle of the Amazon forest, for example, you don't want to also intervene a lot in the creation of strong invasive infrastructure as well. Like there is an interest in the preservation of it. So all this to say that roads or like canals are not part of the reality. So people are taking hours to go to school. And that is a reality, a pretty prevalent reality in the global south. So now I have my hopes. I don't know, you can call me, maybe I'm too much of an optimistic, but I have my hopes that if we manage to achieve universal Wi-Fi infrastructure, AI is going to just democratize education in that sense. Everyone is going to have access to that entrance. And I'm sure that by that time, we're going to have a way more sophisticated set of tools, AI tools, that are going to be able to be used more wisely in the education of especially elementary and high school, I think, are the most important.
Yeah, because especially with that conversation in AI, you first need to accomplish that Wi-Fi aspect first, and then a lot of that digital literacy, digital equity, making sure people have the materials, the computers, the phones, right? Ryan, your thoughts, because you've worked with big companies like Apple, you've worked for Databricks, startups. Any conversations around that in the companies that you've worked with so far?
Not that I'm aware of. I think right now, like, the state of models is not good enough to be something that you can rely upon for like quality education. And I don't know how quickly that will change, but I also don't know how quickly universal Wi-Fi would become a thing. So maybe it would work out. Maybe one of them happens before the other. I think it's hard to say.
Has the companies that you've worked with used AI to maybe train employees, or has it just been very old, kind of quote unquote old school?
I'd say it's more old school. The little training that there is, it's a lot of just kind of, here's the team, just like start working. There's not too much like formal education.
But it is still readily available to use as a tool.
Yeah, it's a tool that you're kind of expected to know how to use at this point, I think.
Yeah, I bet so.